friends, it's Michelle here, and today I'm going to be showing you my painting process for when I paint with gouache paints. I am an oil painter and a digital illustrator primarily. However, I recently started delving into gouache paints just to explore a new medium, and I think it's such a cool medium to learn from, and you get these really cool kind of dreamy effects from the gouache paints. And so I thought it'd be a really great video just to show you what my process is when I'm sitting down to paint. And I wouldn't say this is like a step-by-step tutorial, but I think for me as a person who is self-taught in art, it's just really insightful to see like the process that someone does when they sit down to do their art. I am by no means an expert in it. It is such a cool medium to play around with, so I hope that maybe that encourages you to do so as well. And let's go ahead and get started. First things first, you're going to want to attach your watercolor paper to a surface to paint on, and then go in with your masking tape and just make sure that everything is neatly lined up with the edges of the paper so that everything is perfectly centered. I also lightly blocked in the composition of where all the boats will be sitting in my painting. And then now going in with my flat brush, and I'm creating the base color that I want the water to look like. And I'm also making sure that the angle of my flat brush stays flat and horizontal, and the motions are pretty parallel to what I picture the surface of the water to be. So if you start kind of going in different directions and different angles with your paint, then it's kind of going to break the illusion that the whole painting is a water scene and that things are floating across like a flat plane of water. And then here I'm also adding in some darker gray tones so that you can kind of see the difference of the shadows of the boats as they are sitting on the water. And I'm just blocking in some lighter colors of the water as it sits across the surface. The nice thing about gouache paints is that you can kind of go back in and fix any mistakes that you did at the very beginning, because most of the paints for gouache are pretty opaque in my opinion, kind of like an acrylic if you ever played around with acrylic. And so if you do kind of feel like you messed up at some point, you can always just sort of block in those colors later on. Obviously you don't want to be going back and forth too much because then it sort of muddies up the colors, but it is pretty forgiving in that way. And I'd say just the biggest trick is working pretty quickly and blending as you go before the paint dries. And a lot of that I've learned is just making sure that I have the colors sort of blocked out on my palette so that I can just apply it to the painting as quickly as possible. So here I'm adding in kind of like a lilac-y light blue to create like the reflections of the water. As you can see, not everything is purely white when it's a highlight, and going in with a little bit more different, a little bit of a different reflection in this sort of like mauvey lilac color as well, just to give it some more depth into the different shades that might be reflected off of the light in the water. Now I'm going in with my filbert paintbrush, as well as a small round brush, to blend in the colors and block off where the wooden boats begin. I don't know know if you're a painter as well and maybe aghast at my palette, but I do kind of create a pretty messy looking palette. I also sort of double dip all my paints together, but it's always worked for me so far, and it actually kind of creates the colors that I want, so. Alright, so now I'm going in and just sort of outlining the base colors of the wood. It's going to be kind of more of this yellowish, wooden, kind of oaky tone. Is that even a word? Oaky tone? And it's obviously not perfect at this stage, but once you start blocking in all the colors, towards the end you can kind of go in with a much thinner brush and just really start laying out all the details. But for now, I think the most important part for me is blocking in as much of that base layer as possible, and then worrying more about the highlights and the shadows later on in the painting. So here I am blocking all the shadows within the inside of the boat, kind of where the benches hit the bottom of the boat, and then also the ridges, as you can see, that are alongside of the boat, whether inside or outside. I create either a darker gray or a lighter gray, combined with more like a purplish gray as well, to kind of warm up the colors and to make it more cohesive with the colors in the water. After a small snack break and coffee break, I get right back to it, playing a little bit of YouTube in the background to listen to as I'm painting. Using my thinnest brush, I'm also kind of blocking in all the teeny tiny pieces and the edges and the lines that I wanted to really make sure looked really clean and smooth. But as you can see with like black paint, it does dry pretty light. Now I'm going in with permanent white and mixing it slightly with like a pinkish bluish color and really putting in those last few highlights so that they really pop. As you can see, they kind of dry a little bit more transparent on the paper, so you kind of want to layer a little bit. It also helps to like empty out your water can or your water cup so that the water is as clear as possible and doesn't pick up any unwanted colors as you're trying to do the last couple highlights on your painting. And the difference that I learned is that usually if you buy like a little starter pack of gouache paints, it's gonna have zinc white, and zinc white is the tube of white that you want for just blending colors and like lightening all your colors. So if you want like a light purple, you're gonna mix it with the zinc white. But those paints that I just used right now for those last couple strokes are with permanent white, because permanent white is going to really make those whites pop as much as possible. So you're gonna wanna save permanent white for highlighting and not for blending. And so now, after signing my signature at the end, I'm just kind of going in with any last minute touch-ups or places that I thought maybe I neglected or didn't notice at first, sort of making sure that I didn't miss anything. Here is that satisfying time where you get to pull off your masking tape and you get to reveal those nice crisp, clean edges. I don't quite love the masking tape that I'm using right now. I think it's just a generic brand that I bought from Target. It sometimes lifts and tears a little bit of the paper edges off. So if you have a masking tape that you want to recommend to me, I would highly appreciate that. Here you go. This is the finished painting. I posted it on my Instagram if you want to follow me there at MNGO Art. And I called it Floating. So I hope that was a helpful video to watch and see, and I hope that it encourages you to go out and try some gouache paints or watercolors or what have you, and sit down and paint something for yourself as well. I think in the next video I might be doing an art studio tour, so please comment down below if that is something that you're interested in seeing next, and I will see you next time. Bye!